Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here once again with, what am I doing? Ottoman history, of course. I forgot if I was doing this video or the one I had planned next or whatever. But anyway, we're doing the Siege of Belgrade, 1456, battles of Targoviste, 1462, and Otlukbeli, 1473. I know I butchered all those names. Wow, you get like 3 battles in one? That's crazy. I mean, there must be quick battles, man, but I hope they jump right into it. This is exciting. Uh, but yeah, this is like a normally I just did I got things wrong in order from the previous video, but in the timeline, the last one was the Constantinople video, and this is takes place a few years after that. So let's check it out. Please hit that like and subscribe button below. I really appreciate it, and let's get to the video. Woo!
Today's video is brought to you by Audible. Go to audible.com/kingsandgenerals today to start your free trial. After multiple failed attempts, the Ottomans finally took Constantinople in 1453, but still their appetite for conquest was not sated. Meanwhile, more enemies, both in the Christian and the Muslim worlds, were eager to either stop them or test their mettle in the battle for supremacy.
So they're kind of in like a tough spot, right? Because you got the Christians, to the west, and then you got the Muslims in the east. Those, so they're kind of sandwiched in between two different cultures. So that's kind of got to be kind of rough to kind of keep your eyes on both sides, kind of thing, because you get totally different enemies, with different tactics.
So the Sultan Mehmet II, the Conqueror, had to face rivals on multiple fronts.
Exactly.
Almost immediately after the fall of Constantinople, Sultan Mehmet II moved his capital there. As the ruler of Serbia, Đurađ Branković, failed to pay tribute and assist.
I mean, that's a perfect place for a capital, man. Like, you're right between everything. So, yeah, it just makes perfect sense. And obviously, Constantinople is like, my God, it is very, very hard to take it over, if you have a good army defending it. I'm sure they have to do a lot of fixing ups on that, because they probably broke down some walls, like they said. So they're going to have to fix that place back up.
In the siege of Constantinople, Mehmed started a punitive campaign against him in 1454. He had a 30,000-strong army and met no resistance in Serbia. Soon the capital Smederevo was besieged. However, the old nemesis of the Ottomans, the Voivode of Transylvania and the leader of the Hungarian armies, John Hunyadi, was nearby with 30,000 troops and forced the Sultan to lift the siege. Mehmed left his army in the area with orders to avoid battle and returned to Constantinople to gather more troops. Hunyadi united his forces with Đurađ and in October managed to coerce the Ottoman forces into battle near Krusevac, where he earned a decisive victory. As no enemy troops opposed him now,
I'm sure someone tipped these guys off about, the Sultan's plan, like the Sultan wasn't there, so they probably, they had not a leaderless army, but they, the guy had orders to avoid battles, so that's some just big information, and probably not as experienced, as these guys. So it's probably an easy victory and just a smart move in general. I don't know why he left his army there. I guess just to keep an eye on things. I don't know, but it's definitely a mistake, right?
Hunyadi moved into the Ottoman lands and sacked Vidin. He then returned to his base of operations in Belgrade. Mehmed knew that he had to take Belgrade to consolidate his hold over the southern side of the Danube River. A new campaign was planned for the summer of 1456. It seems that this was known in Hungary, as a crusade was called against the Ottomans, but internal strife prevented the Hungarians from starting their campaign. The forces of the Ottoman Sultan approached Belgrade in June. Belgrade was of crucial strategic importance as it was built at the location where the Danube and its tributary the Sava merged. It defended the southern borders of Hungary and was one of the best defended fortresses in Europe, with 2 sets of walls and a castle behind them. Belgrade had a 7,000-strong Serbo-Hungarian garrison commanded by Hunyadi's son, Laszlo, and his brother-in-law, Michael. Meanwhile, the Ottomans had anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 troops. Mehmed placed his Anatolian troops on the left and his European forces on the right, while his guard was in the center. The majority of his 300 cannons were on the right flank, and his 200 ships moved to the north of the city to block off the Danube. The Ottomans started bombarding the walls on the 29th of June, and although they did some damage, the siege was just starting. Hunyadi was recruiting new troops when he learned that Mehmed had besieged Belgrade. He was leading some 50,000 men.
Yeah, because this definitely looks like it'd be hard to get through. Like you pretty much gotta go through the walls, and obviously like 100,000 compared to like 7,000. They said, that 7,000 that should be, someone say easy, but as long as the walls hold up, they should be good, and you're basically just holding off until the cavalry arrives, which is it's on its way. So I guess Ottomans move next. What are they gonna do? They're gonna have to back away. I don't know.
Learned that Mehmed had besieged Belgrade. He was leading some 50,000 men, but only 10 to 15,000 of those were professional, with the rest being peasants joining the crusade. The Hungarians also had a navy with 200 ships, and this fleet reached the area on July 14th. The Ottomans were either unaware of this threat, or their boats were defending a large area as they were caught unprepared.
Really?
Hunyadi's navy sunk a number of heavy galleys and captured up to 30 smaller vessels. The blockade was raised, and the Ottoman navy would become a non-factor in this siege.
Wow. I'm just kind of curious, like as far as experience, who has the better navy? Because you don't really hear much about, I guess, the Ottoman navy and the Hungarian, navy. I guess like equal grounds. Did Hungary just catch them off guard, kind of thing? Obviously, they caught them off guard. I guess that's kind of like a big thing in naval battles. If you can catch your enemy off guard, it's a big advantage. I guess that's kind of goes for anything, right? I don't know.
Hunyadi moved into the city with some of his troops and brought some food and supplies. The Ottomans continued the siege. The artillery bombardment became more...
So I'm just kind of curious. Maybe they didn't have time. They couldn't get across, but I didn't have like maybe a few troops just to block people from leaving or coming in. Just kind of have, maybe 1,000 men, maybe not even that many, just to kind of block the bridge over here. Or maybe have two just to destroy the bridge. So I don't know. So they'd be more likely to give up and I don't know.
The Ottomans continued the siege. The artillery bombardment became more intense after the naval loss, and on the 21st of July, part of the walls were breached. The Sultan sent his janissaries into the lower city. The defenders were pushed back from the gate. However, a fire that started in the area prevented more Ottoman troops from entering. The janissaries, numbering 5,000, were basically trapped and had no other choice but to win. They almost managed to take a tower on the second layer of city walls, but the Serbian contingent defending this site repelled the attackers. Most of the janissaries in the city were then killed.
Oh, dang.
The siege took an unexpected turn on the next day. A group of poor Hungarian peasants decided to loot the Ottoman camp, despite receiving no such order.
What?
Mehmed sent his light Sipahi cavalry to repel this group, but as they were now within the camp, the cavalry had no room to move and failed to push the peasants back. Seeing this, more and more of Hunyadi's troops joined this improvised attack. The papal emissary, John of Capistrano, used the ships to move a few thousand warriors.
Man, it's kind of crazy. Like the peasants, were winning against the light cavalry. I guess you had nowhere to move, but that seems kind of crazy to me. I guess when you think of peasants, you don't really think of experienced, I guess, swordsmen or whatnot. And so I just I was like, wow, okay, I thought the cavalry was going to go in and slaughter them, but that didn't happen. And now look at this, now they're going to get flanked, from behind here.
Warriors across the Sava River and attacked the left flank of the Ottoman army.
Yeah.
The Sultan's troops were either demoralized or unprepared and started fleeing in panic. Even Mehmed himself, with the remainder of his janissaries, failed to stabilize the situation. The Sultan was wounded and carried away, and the Ottomans eventually lost more than 20,000 men in this siege.
Damn.
Hunyadi was eager to pursue the foe, but soon an epidemic broke out in his camp. Thousands died, among them Hunyadi himself.
Wow.
Still, this defeat and the failure to take Belgrade slowed down the Ottoman advance into Europe for decades.
So that was like perfect timing, I guess. I want to say perfect. I guess they end up dying by disease or whatnot. But, if the Sultan kind of waited maybe a year and then did it, it could have been like easy pickings if they all died from disease over here. But then again, that could have been the reason they, all that happened was because the Ottomans trying to take it over. I don't know, but they defended that perfect timing before they decided to pass away. I mean, before they died by whatever causes made them die. Anyways, sorry.
Although the Ottomans were somewhat weakened, they still managed to destroy the Despotate of Serbia and forced the King of Bosnia to pay tribute.
Huh.
In 1460, they ended the Despotate of Morea and took direct control over most of Greece. The Empire of Trebizond was next in line. The Emperor David surrendered almost immediately after Trebizond was besieged,
Wow.
and thus the Roman Empire ceased to exist in 1461.
There's my boy Vlad. Got Vlad up here. Woo! This is going to be interesting. I've done Vlad the Impaler. I've done his series from his point of view, so now I'm doing it from the Ottomans' point of view, so this is cool. And even though I forget most of what I probably forget most of what I learned in that series, but anyways, to rejuvenate my memory here.
Back in Europe, the ruler of Wallachia, Vlad III the Impaler, refused to pay tribute, invaded Bulgaria, and killed more than 20,000 Turks.
Yeah, Vlad Impaler, man, he used fear, man, to win, man. That dude was brutal.
Invaded Bulgaria and killed more than 20,000 Turks. Enraged, Sultan Mehmed led a 100,000 strong army against Vlad in 1462.
This is what virtual care with doctors and therapists looks like with United Healthcare.
The Wallachians had around 30,000 troops and couldn't fight a pitched battle against the Ottomans, so the campaign ended up being a series of skirmishes and ambushes. In the beginning, Vlad did his best to prevent the Ottomans from landing at Vidin, and his archers killed many foes. Forced to retreat, he then used scorched earth tactics. Eventually, the Ottomans camped near his capital, Targoviste. Vlad entered the Sultan's camp in disguise to find Mehmed's tent. Late at night, half of his army attacked the camp from one side to draw the enemy's attention, while he led the rest in a second attack. After killing a small group of defenders, Vlad attempted to assassinate the Sultan, but the Janissaries were able to stop the Wallachians. Vlad lost 5,000 men in this battle. While the Ottoman losses were around 20,000, the odds were still against Vlad, and he wasn't able to do anything to prevent the razing of Brela.
Vlad kind of just avoided and just kind of hit and run pretty much, right?
The Ottomans then retreated. Vlad asked the son of John Hunyadi, Matthias, who was now the king of Hungary, for help, but was imprisoned. Mehmed failed to use that to his advantage, as at this time the king of Bosnia, Stefan II, decided to stop paying his tribute. In 1463, Bosnia was occupied by the Ottomans and lost its independence.
I bet he wished he paid.
At this point, the situation in Anatolia was getting volatile. The Ottomans controlled most of the Anatolian peninsula via their Turkic vassals. But another Turkic dynasty, the Akkoyunlu, were gaining strength to the east of the Ottomans, and their mere existence made many Turkic beyliks rebellious. The Akkoyunlu Sultan, Uzun Hasan, was ambitious and married the daughter of the Emperor of Trebizond to gain an ally. He failed to help Trebizond in 1461 as he was fighting against the Timurids, but the fall of the empire was one more reason for animosity against Mehmed. Uzun Hasan needed a port that would allow him to trade with Europe. His best option was the territory of the Karamanids. In the late 1460s, both he and Mehmed attempted to place their candidates on the throne of this beylik, and in 1471, Mehmed sent his forces to take control over the beylik. Uzun Hasan entered an alliance with Venice. The Italian Republic promised him gunpowder-based weapons and support against the Ottomans. In 1472, the Venetian navy attacked Izmir, while 20,000 Akkoyunlu troops attacked and raided the Karamanid territory.
Oh, wow.
The leader of the Akkoyunlu sent a letter to the Ottoman court demanding Trebizond and the Karamanid lands, but was refused.
Obviously.
Meanwhile, the Venetian shipment of gunpowder weapons never reached Uzun Hasan's troops, as it was captured by the Ottoman navy. This was crucial. Both sides were able to raise anywhere from 100 to 150,000 soldiers, but the Ottomans had guns and artillery, while their enemies were a traditional Turkoman force, not too different from the Seljuk army that fought in the area 4 centuries before.
That's the thing. It's like the Ottomans, they're kind of, they're, like I said, they're like a mix between how the Europeans kind of fight, and so I get they anytime I think they fight, in the East, they have, that little bit of an advantage just because they have the guns and, armor upgrades and stuff like that. And I think these new guys on the scene here, they're going to have to, use more brute force to kind of do that, or just, be just smarter as far as tactics go.
Mehmed's 20,000-strong vanguard finally came into contact with the Akkoyunlu army on the 1st of August, 1473. The two sides were divided by the Euphrates. Uzun Hasan moved across the river and attacked the enemy. After a short skirmish, the Akkoyunlu retreated, and the Ottomans...
This seems like a trap, though. Like, they just send these guys and they get slaughtered, and then these pulling the Ottomans. It seems like a trap.
Enemy. After a short skirmish, the Akkoyunlu retreated, and the Ottoman cavalry followed them over the bridge. As soon as all the enemy cavalry was on the right side of the river, a small Akkoyunlu unit destroyed the bridge and attacked the Ottomans from the rear. At the same moment, the rest of Uzun Hasan's warriors turned and charged. The Ottoman cavalry was shattered, and they lost 5,000 troops.
Wow. I was right.
Uzun Hasan chased the Ottoman vanguard, but failed to annihilate it. Ten days later, Mehmed arrived with the rest of his army.
Here we go.
Both sides now had around 100,000 troops, who prepared for battle in a place called Otlukbeli.
Mehmed's going to win.
The Ottomans had their cavalry on the flanks, with the Janissaries in the center. While the Akkoyunlu army consisted predominantly of light cavalry, it was divided into 4 big groups and 1 small one. This small group was sent to the west to prevent a possible Ottoman retreat.
Okay.
The battle started with the Ottomans attacking with their right flank. Uzun Hasan's forces stopped the enemy cavalry here, while his own right attacked the Ottoman left. The battle was in balance until the Akkoyunlu Sultan sent his reserves against the Ottoman left. The Sipahi in this area buckled under the pressure, but soon Mehmed reinforced his left by sending part of his janissaries from the center. Uzun Hasan decided to use the fact that the Ottoman center was now weakened and sent his entire central group forward.
Cannons.
However, his cavalry were decimated by Ottoman artillery and gunpowder units.
Wow.
The sources differ on what happened next. Some claim that Uzun Hasan retreated in panic. Others assert that a horse was killed under him and his banner was lost, which caused a mass rout. But in any case, after the Akkoyunlu center was destroyed, the Ottoman center helped the flanks in their defense. The Ottomans won a clear victory and lost a few thousand men, while the casualties for their foes were around 25,000.
Yeah, having those guns in, the guns in Canada, that's just a big game changer. I just reminds me of, when Europeans and the British kind of took over, the Americas, and then you had the Indians, or the natives, I mean, you had kind of like bow and arrows versus, guns, and it's just no match, especially if it's both sides are even in numbers. I mean, that gunpowder, man, talk about, they said, right, that this was the end of the medieval age, pretty much the end of the kind of like the castles and stuff, because castles are becoming like obsolete because the gunpowder could just take down the walls, right? Pretty much.
The victory at Otlukbeli cemented Ottoman rule over Anatolia, and no power would challenge them in the east for the next 4 decades.
Wow.
Nothing was stopping the Ottoman sultans from attacking Europe yet again.
Okay.
The sponsor of this video, Audible, has an
And is that the end of the video? I think so, yeah. So I guess we're going to Europe, trying to conquer some of Europe here, because since 4 decades they don't have to worry, about the East and stuff. So now that they got their eyes open, over there, so I guess we're gonna skip past, the Vlad the Impaler rule and go to, I guess, after that. I guess that's kind of where we're going. I guess I can go look ahead here. Makes sense, right? Battle. I can't pronounce it. But anyways, cool stuff, guys. Cool stuff. It's just, I don't know, it's an interesting part of the world, because I guess like between Asia and Europe, and I don't know, it's cool, interesting stuff, because they're going back and forth, and it's kind of keeping things fresh. I like it. But anyways, guys, please hit that like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I really appreciate it. And catch you guys in future videos. Always a blast. I am Atahia. Have a great day, great weekend. Woohoo, peace.